Good morning, everyone. Um, Thank you very much, Cyber Media and DataQuest, Mr. Ibrahim Ahmed, for inviting me to deliver a keynote address on the topic of post-demonetization, the digital economy. I think one needs to, as the stage has very well been said by Adish in his elaborate presentation when he has comprehensively talked about how data is going to play a key role in practically every walk of life. We all know that last 2 decades with internet connected every individual to the world in many ways, and it is this strength of connectivity that is now being exploited in practically every field. Every individual with the mobile phone is a connected person with internet, with data speeds increasing at a rapid rate. The world has limitless opportunities. Digital India mission, which the Prime Minister so eloquently talked about right at the start, and he has followed it through with several initiatives, one after another, to make it possible for the digital economy in India to kickstart in a very big way. Digital transformation is absolutely essential, as we know that nearly 600 to 700 million people in this country are disenfranchised, have been disenfranchised for a long time. They have not had the simple connect into the financial system. So financial inclusion in a country as big as India is an absolute necessity before one can talk about a digital economic transformation. And again, I want to mention here that the Prime Minister's initiative to open 250 million Jan Dhan accounts, which many people may not have believed, including us, of how it will connect to a bigger and larger vision, was the first step in that direction. An economy such as India, which is being talked about as the fastest growing economy in the world, but is still far behind its own potential and far behind its illustrious neighbor China, cannot really grow very rapidly unless 600-700 million people who are at the grassroots in this country are financially connected. So the step to allow them to have bank accounts without going through a tedious process, which the banks had laid out and has been the deterrent for many of these people to own a bank account, was taken care of in one quick step. The two biggest game changers that have allowed further the transformation to move further, one is Aadhaar. We all know how in the last 6 months to a year, Aadhaar has almost become center stage to digital economy. And this again was, it was work in progress for maybe more than 6 or 7 years, initiated by the previous government, but it was this government that took the first most important step to allow Aadhaar as the identity for economic digital transactions, to make Aadhaar as a KYC, which would do away from the tedious process of KYC through paperwork and documentation, which was always non-existent in case of the bottom of the pyramid, the 500-600 million people I'm talking about. So with Aadhaar having been given teeth, the other biggest innovation that has happened in this country, in the financial world, has been through NPCI, the National Payment Corporation of India. Very few people realize that NPCI's innovation has been absolutely path-breaking and revolutionary. if I may use that word. The twin Aadhaar and NPCI's platform, this Twin Connect, has opened a vista of opportunities and possibilities for financial inclusion and to drive digital transactions, which we have all seen in the last few months since demonetization. It's not as if the innovation happened post-demonetization, it was all in progress, but the demonetization, the need for people to transact without having cash in their hands brought into focus and speeded up all the efforts that have been in place over a period of time. The NPCI connects all the banks, created an immediate payment platform with Digital Mobile Connect. The RBI had already taken the step to involve smaller players by issuing licenses for PPI licenses, that mobile wallets could be created and mobile wallets could transact with the bank accounts through the NPCI. Now, this itself was the beginning of digitally connecting the financial system with the masses. Everyone who has a mobile phone is a potential customer for a digital financial process. And post-demonetization, what we saw, an emergence of an ecosystem. For some time, we had all believed that mobile wallet is the only thing that means digital payments. But all the different steps that the government took, the NPCI, the RBI, and the players in the ecosystem, the banks and the private partners, have opened up a large spectrum of digital payment infrastructure, which is so badly required. Now, just going back to Jan Dhan accounts, when accounts were opened, the accounts didn't transact. There was no money in most of the accounts, and it was very clear. The accounts holders were living in small towns or villages. It was not convenient for them to go to the bank branches, which may be far away, to deposit money or to go and transact money, even if their money came into their bank account somehow. So the biggest challenge for making sure that the digital transaction process can take place and these account holders can transact is to create infrastructure in the last mile. The payment acceptance infrastructure in the last mile. Unless you have that, there is no way that you can transact. Government's intent was very clear. They wanted all the money that is meant for the poor people in the country, such as the subsidies, the benefit payments, the pensions, and so on and so forth, should go into the bank accounts. But what do people do when they can't transact their bank accounts? And therefore, the need for the infrastructure in the last mile. With Aadhaar, as the KYC, as the authentication and connectivity of Aadhaar to the bank accounts, it was made possible to transact a bank account from remote. So without having to have your bank account details, without having to have a checkbook or a card or anything, a person today can do a transaction from his bank account from remote. All that it needs is an acceptance infrastructure, which could be a device, could be a phone, could be a device that allows you to scan your biometric, debit your bank account, or credit your bank account from next door in your own village. So that's really revolutionary and transformational. Then the government also ensured that all the bank account holders have debit cards. We all know that the card penetration in this country, or card usage penetration in this country, has been dismal. We have 25 million credit cards in a country of 1.25 billion population, perhaps the lowest in the world. We have 600, 700 million debit cards, but 95% of these debit cards were used only to draw cash from ATM machines. That's not digital. You go to the ATM machine, draw cash, and do transactions in cash. So how to eliminate that? Once again, the same last mile infrastructure could allow you to transact your bank account for making payments cashlessly without having to draw the cash from ATM machines. So Aadhaar-enabled payment system and Aadhaar-enabled merchant payment system, both which have been pushed during this post-demonetization period or during demonetization period, opens up an enormous opportunity for making cashless payments from your bank account directly to a merchant, either for payment to the merchant where you're doing the transactions, or payment to any other entity. It could be a utility company, it could be a consultant, it could be anybody. A farmer could come to the distributor, urea distributor or seed distributor in his village. If he has the acceptance infrastructure with Aadhaar payment, a farmer could make payment from his bank account to buy the fertilizer in one single step. He enters his Aadhaar number, he scans his biometric, debits his account, and credits the account of the supplier. So everything is cashless. So without having to draw cash, you can do cashless transactions. Now, more steps, why cards were not used because of the high merchant discount rates. That merchant discount rate was also the reason for the merchants, for Kirana stores to not accept card payments. And some steps have been taken to lower the merchant discount rate. When you do an Aadhaar payment transaction for a merchant, is the lowest. So clearly the government wants Aadhaar to be the priority for transacting digitally. Card transactions also, debit card transactions also, they lowered the merchant discount rates. During demonetization, it was lowered for a period. Then thereafter also, it's been lowered for utilities and those kinds of payments to 0.4%, otherwise 0.8%. With lower discount rates, merchant will be encouraged to have the payment acceptance infrastructure, card payment acceptance infrastructure. It will give rise to card payments at small merchants as well, which doesn't exist today. You can use your debit cards to draw cash at the merchant. If he has a device, a POS machine or a micro ATM, as we call it, he can draw cash from, if the merchant serves as the cash provider instead of a bank. So instead of hundreds of people going to an ATM and drawing cash, they can go to a merchant who has cash either from sale of his product, because we do expect cash to still remain in transactions. He can give cash out without the customer having to go to an ATM machine to draw cash in case there is a cash need. Now the mobile wallets have been in existence for some time and have been making very rapid progress. NPCI came up with another innovation we all know with the banks to create a UPI, Unified Payment Interface, so that a bank account holder can download an app and without having to go through the process of authentication, verification, for making online payment, you can debit your bank account and credit an account without having to go through a payment gateway. That's as smooth as it can get. And then a BHIM app was devised by NPCI, aggregating UPI of all the banks. The government also forced, or I would say persuaded, not forced, the telecom operators to open the USSD interface for doing digital financial transactions with ordinary mobile phones. We all know that smartphones are there, they are increasing in number, but even though there are 250 million smartphones, but only 30 or 40% are data enabled. I'm sure over a period of time, in the next few years, we will see that there will be more smartphones, they will be data enabled as data costs are coming down rapidly, and transactions will happen with apps. So now, if you look at what has happened during demonetization, post-demonetization, there are several verticals have been created for supporting digital transactions. It's not just a mobile wallet or a mobile app. There is need for rapidly developing an infrastructure in the last mile at 220 to 30 million merchants that do transactions where customers connect on a daily basis, need to have this digital payment acceptance infrastructure through a point of sales device which can have Aadhaar scanner and can accept cards. It can have touch and go, kind of an NFC payments using a mobile wallet or a code scanner, QR code scanner. That again, an initiative to create a single unified QR code. It's called Bharat QR code. So instead of every service provider launching their own QR code and having multiple QR code at a merchant, there can be a single QR code which can accept various wallets if they choose to partner in this QR code environment, or the banks. So therefore, and this QR code can also reside on the device that the merchant uses, whether it's a mobile phone or a tablet or a POS machine, right? So it's infrastructure that can allow payments from various methods, whether it's card or it's wallet or it's Aadhaar, using NFC, or any other mode that can be supported through a single infrastructure, will bring the entire ecosystem alive to make 600-700 million people who were otherwise not part of the ecosystem, financial ecosystem, to do it. Now what it does, once everybody starts doing these kinds of transactions either from mobile phone or at retail through these devices, is that they can generate, a history of payments. And one of the biggest challenge that we have in our country is, because of absence of this transaction history, people who are in need to grow their businesses, small businesses, individual businesses, who are not able to access loans from banks or from the lending system, can now be evaluated. And there comes our data analytics, what Rajesh was talking about. I mean, data is going to play a key role. Now, today, all of this data for various kinds of transactions, when you are using a mobile phone to recharge your mobile phone, or making a utility payment, or buying grocery, or doing an online payment, and if that data is analyzed, the algorithms are developed to allow you to evaluate the customer and do a credit rating for the customer, which doesn't exist. This opportunity is right here now for hundreds of millions of people who are otherwise not able to access loans, credits, which is so important for growth of business at all levels. So this digital access, the digital payments, will open up an opportunity for people to be able to access loans. And these loans, small value loans, can also be provided by entities other than the banks. World over, there is a big push for giving credits, microcredits, or credits through small enterprises. Similarly, insurance, that's another big element for the growth and for protection, which poor people suffer from, as they are not able to get insurance policy, whether it is farmers in the rural areas who need crop insurance, or medical insurance, or insurance for supporting education and things like those. All that is also possible because we can now digitally KYC a customer. His credit rating can be established. He can make payment digitally in the last mile. The insurance companies or the credit loan companies are not having to go to recover money in cash by sending people, and the whole system is so cumbersome and complicated and expensive. So with this digital connect, insurance companies, microfinance companies, lenders, and others can become a partner in driving the digital economy and the growth of the country. So when demonetization was talked and the payments and digital payments at retail were talked, it's a much, much bigger system that's really I think, is a part of the vision that the government has or the Prime Minister has. And as this progresses, we will see monumental changes coming into the financial system and the economic growth of 7 to 8% that we are talking about, which is dependent on small push here and there and something which will automatically fuel itself. Organizations have to, and individuals have now to become data conscious. They have to realize that data is going to drive our lives in every respect. And therefore, it requires a mindset change. It's not just what the government has done. It requires a mindset change at the organizational level, at individual level. Organizations now have to think in terms of how do they make their organization or have their business data-driven. It's not just software or IT companies that are responsible for data. In manufacturing, whether you are making steel or you are generating power or you're in building construction, everything has a role for data, for software. Software as a service and software to drive strategy is going to be the key for the growth. Data analytics, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, all are going to become center stage in every industrial segment to drive efficiency. When you look at the strategy of the companies, the traditional strategy where we used to talk about efficiency improvement, now we'll talk about innovation. In a digital world, you can innovate fast, and you can bring about changes much faster. The culture of the organization, which used to be hierarchical before, is now going to be more collaborative. No single entity can exist by itself without having to collaborate with others. It's an ecosystem-driven economy that is digitally driven. The talent, when we talked about the talent acquisition earlier, you talked about low cost. Lower the cost of talent, you're talking about high skill now. Instead of lowering the cost, you're talking about skill, because everything is going to be skill-based. Legacy-based technology versus cloud, mobile, apps, algorithms. We all know that everything is algorithms today. That smart algorithms are being developed to allow all kinds of things, whether you get your driving cars and finding your routes and being guided on a day-to-day basis, since it's all algorithms. People are even talking about disintermediation of the basic things in life, like no need for you to why do you need to buy a car when a car can be available to you at demand, And that car can be, the investment in that one vehicle can be put to maximum use when multiple people are using that vehicle, instead of just one person going to the office, parking the car in the office, coming back home, the car is being used for a small fraction of its capacity. Same way the housing. More and more you will see that people will move away from investing in purchase of a house. They can go and take a house of their liking anywhere. They go wherever they go. People will be on the move. They are not going to be grounded to one location. And so you see all the apps that are available today to help you do various different things are all results of the data and innovation that's coming through. User experience is the most important thing now. Earlier, you produced whatever you did, you gave a service, who cares? Today, consumers' experience is mission critical for every organization. You cannot, because consumer will have option. In a digitally connected world, whether you want to do e-commerce, whether it's an Amazon or it's a Flipkart or it's a Alibaba, or, consumer will have option. So if you're not able to give the best to the consumer, you cannot exist. So user experience, and the user experience through the digital connect is now, because it's all in the hands of the individual. You are able to see and feel it instantly. So the IT philosophy of the company, what Adish was talking about so elaborately, at default, it has to be yes by default. There has to be everything around IT, everything around data, everything about how you use the data to make things better around you. The business model from service and support will become relationships and partnerships. So the kind of change that is coming in our system, I think digital transformation is already in process. It's moving very rapidly. the digital financial transactions, the beginning has been made, and it's a very big beginning. Large number of players are coming into the ecosystem. The PPI licenses, just 2 days back, RBI issued new guidelines for PPI. They increased the limit for minimum KYC wallet which was made to 20,000 during, from 10,000 to 20,000 during demonetization, has been retained at 20,000, but increased to 100,000, right? Now, 100,000 is a lot of money, so large number of small players will be able to operate the digital financial ecosystem in the last mile like the banks do. The need is to work in partnership with the banks to extend the reach of the banks, to bring banking access and the products, and create a collaborative infrastructure rather than position mobile wallet or PPI license holders as being competitive to the banks. I think that's a wrong mindset. We really have to see that the ecosystem works in a collaborative way, that banks need to go to the last mile. They have heavy infrastructure, the costs are big, the smaller players with lean cost, innovation, using technology, can do the transactions in the last mile at a very, very low cost, and therefore it should all work together. So, I would like to conclude by saying that the transformation that we have seen in the last 20 years, we will see 10x of that transformation in the next 10 years, perhaps lower than that. It will be collaborative, it will be all digital, it will all move to the person, and the consumer will take the center stage as it is taking. The need is to address the need of the consumer, not just lure the consumer by giving incentives. Incentives is only one way. Giving incentives alone cannot behold the consumer to you. The consumer is at the end of the day looking for satisfaction. Consumer satisfaction comes when you fulfill the need of the consumer. And fulfilling the need should be the objective of the people who are in the environment trying to drive these transactions, rather than just offer free money and make the consumer, spoil the consumer in the short term, and not offer them consistently for a long term what they really need. So thank you very much. I hope you have an enjoyable day and great session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saxena. Just 1 minute, I'll take yours. May I request Ibrahim to hand over a bouquet of flowers to Mr. Saxena? Ibrahim, are you there? So meanwhile, I can request Adish to hand over a bouquet of flowers to Mr. Saxena.